Hey there, and welcome to this episode of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast, where we are diving into the second part of a two-part mini-series with the amazing Julie C Butler. In the last episode, Julie revealed all on how to create an offer and get it out there in the same day. And so if you've been thinking about creating a digital product, hosting a workshop or masterclass, or launching a mini course, but you keep putting it off because it feels too overwhelming, or you just don't know where to start, I highly recommend that you listen to that episode first before you listen to this one. From deciding which offer to create to naming and pricing your offer so that it speaks to your ideal client, and from doing the work to selling it before it's ready so that you are getting paid whilst you're creating it. Trust me when I say that the strategy that Julie shared in the last episode is not only pure genius, but it makes creating your offers so much lighter and so much more fun too. You'll find the link to listen to that one in the show notes. This episode is a topic that serves as the perfect follow-on from that episode and is a strategy that is guaranteed to make your digital products stand out from the crowd. So whether you are creating a brand new product and you want to make sure that it is a hit for your audience and that it actually sells, or it's a product that you already have and you are submitting it to a bundle or summit and you want to make sure that it gets noticed, this episode is for you. Join me as I chat with Julie all about how to create the perfect brand for your digital product, where she reveals all on why you should design a brand for your digital product, the power of giving it a brand and how it can take your products to the next level, the 4 key elements to consider when designing the branding, how to do it so that it has its own identity but still fits with the overall brand of your business so that it is instantly recognizable as yours, and so much more. Julie is a branding and systems coach, an Amazon best-selling author, and the host of the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast. With over 15 years of experience owning and running a business, she helps female entrepreneurs design and create beautiful brand identities and websites so that they can make more sales. Julie's mission is to support female entrepreneurs to find balance between business and living their life through their online business, and her business helps them achieve this with simplicity and ease. Julie and I have been online biz buddies for at least the past 4 years, maybe even longer, and I just love everything that she does. I have spoken at all 3 of her summits, I've gone through some of her courses and programs, and I've even been a guest on her podcast too. So it is great to be doing this 2-part mini-series with her and for you to benefit from all of her incredible tips and strategies here on the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. So, are you ready to take your digital products to the next level by creating the perfect brand for them? Let's dive in. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mumpreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mumpreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. Hey Julie, welcome back to the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. You are our first repeat guest and I am so excited.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm like, it feels like we just spoke and
I know. Exactly. Yeah, we've been doing something brand new that I haven't done before. Is just with having a special guest on where we are doing a two-part mini series. So in the last episode with Julie, we chatted all about how to create an offer and get it out there in the same day. And so if you haven't checked that one out yet, definitely go and do that. You'll find the link for that in the show notes. And today we are going to be taking it to the next step. And this one serves as the perfect add-on for it and taking the next step, all about designing the perfect brand for your digital product. And I know you've got some great tips on diving into this one. But just in case, before we start, anybody hasn't seen or listened to the first episode with you, or this is the first time they're coming across you, do you want to just share with everybody who you are, what you do, and your journey to where you've got to now?
Yes, so I'm Julie C Butler, and I am in Ottawa, Canada, and I help female entrepreneur who actually, you know what? I just kind of not rebranded, that's not the right word, but I'm just kind of like I touched back on my niche, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to go for coaches on the other side of 40. And I help them build and grow a beautiful business. That's the gist of it. Growing their audience and having a beautiful business website slash brand, identity and all of the things. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. And I love everything you do, and everything really is under the name of beautiful business because everything you do is always so feminine and so beautiful and so pretty. And I could literally just spend hours looking at your website. So I just love that that's what you do. And that brings us nicely on to what we'll be talking about today, all about how to design the perfect brand for your digital product. And so we're going to get into all of the different goodness for it and everything else. So shall we just dive in, and why do we even design a brand style for our product or for our offer? Because I know when we first start creating them and wanting to put it together, and I can sit there and staring at a blank screen sometimes, and it's bad enough for me sometimes when I'm looking at my website and I'm trying to figure out my brand, my colors, my fonts, what it represents, and everything else. The thought of doing that with a product, that just like, whoa, I struggle just at the best of times of actually coming up with the initial designing of it. So do you want to just share with us why designing a brand style for our product or offer matters?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think first of all, this is not a mandatory thing. This is an optional thing. This is like if you have like a creative in you and you want to go ahead and because sometimes what happens is that, our brand is our brand. Like we choose our colors, we choose our logo, and that is the end of it. But sometimes we want to be creative, and this is like the perfect outlet for us to do that. And so why not create a brand style for our product or offer? And so I think that it's a way for us to like go out and be creative. Like sometimes it's just kind of like for me, definitely it's a reward. But so it's that thing. You can either, just keep your the colors of your brand already, or, choose some fun colors. Like, because the thing is that I love pinks, right? And but I love working with other colors too. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to create a different brand color palette for this product because for fun, right? And it's so that's why I say it's completely optional. You can just keep everything the same with your brand colors and, keeping everything flowing, or you can have fun with it and have like, your offers and products have different colors. And, I think it's more of a creative thing and a fun thing more than it is it must be done thing. So that's what I have to say about that.
Brilliant. That's so cool. Oh no, I like that. I like the idea of, and actually it's almost like just giving it its identity in its own right, especially if we're all, creatives and multi-passionate in everything that we do in our businesses, and we're having our brand copy across all of the different products and offerings that we have. It can start to make everything look samey, doesn't it? And then it can make it difficult sometimes for people when they're scrolling through or they're looking on our websites and think, yeah, I've already seen that because it looks the same as everything else. But if it has got that different color or a different pop, then actually it can make it really stand out. And there's still ways of making it look like ours and recognizable as, hey, that's something Julie created. but it can just be different. And I think actually having different colors, fonts, and everything can help sometimes too. That, like you say, you love pinks, but you know, same as I do, but everybody actually, other people might not, and different colors. And we know when we're creating things on Pinterest and our pins that we can try different designs because one design will resonate with some person and one design will resonate with someone else. So is that what you find helps with the brands as well if you're giving your product a different branding?
Mm. And you know what, like, I know last week we talked about smaller offers, but if you have like a bigger offer, like a high ticket coaching program or a high ticket, or a $1,000 program, like something that's like your core offer, having a signature brand style, can make it unique in itself. So I like that. Like, and you use like this is also an opportunity for, because sometimes like, you love different sets of stock photos. Like, right, like if we're going to talk about stock photos for a minute, like I love the dark, gooey, cozy, floral black walls, like I love that. But I couldn't put that on my website because it makes no sense. It's not who I am. It's not my brand, right?
Hmm.
But I can surely use it on one of my products, right? So recently I created, I have a low ticket offer and I went ahead and used the dark photos and, used a different kind of brand color palette for it. And it was fun. And I was able to use those pictures that I like. And it doesn't mess with my whole overall brand, but it kind of still fits in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it can become like, oh, it's a signature color for that product or offer, or if you have like an exclusive signature program or a high ticket coaching or a mastermind or something like that, that it becomes their, like those colors become that product or offers colors, like it's more like of a signature thing, right? So that's like different ways to look at it. And I love your point of view on, kind of attracting different people, and different people are attracted to different colors. Like that's actually a really good point of view as well. So, but like what I'm going to say, and I say this to all the things, don't overthink it, right? Like just go with your gut and what feels aligned. And we're going to talk about more of this and choosing your colors and stuff like that, and being in alignment and doing what feels mostly aligned. So yeah.
Brilliant. I love that it's almost like a creative expression, isn't it? And gives us that freedom to actually just try something different and try something new, especially if it is a standalone product or a signature program that you don't want it like necessarily messing up in quotes the rest of the look of your website, that it gives you that creative thing and gives it its brand in its own right. That is awesome. So
Mhm.
what would you say if we're looking at doing that? What would you say is the most important thing before we actually dive in?
I think that the most important thing, I think, is having an open heart and an open mind. But also, if you start playing around with colors and logos and it just doesn't feel right, it's okay to let it go and just use the colors that you already use in your website and everything. And like again, like I said, don't overthink the process, because you don't want to spend days and days doing this. It should be like a few hours at the most, even then, right? And because I think that when you tap into you letting yourself be guided through the process, I think that that speaks volume, and it becomes effortless, right? Whereas when you're trying to force something,
Mhm.
you forget results, and you can go down a rabbit hole and spend like way too much time there. So yeah, I think that would be the most important.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Definitely not overthinking it because I know what I would be like. I would be going down the rabbit hole and I've done this before, of saving Pinterest board of all of the different, the mock-ups that you can find on Pinterest. And then you overthink it for days and weeks, and then you just feel completely lost and you haven't got a clue. And then you just walk away from it all again, you're stuck, aren't you? And don't know what to do. So I know you've got some elements that you follow sort of how to create and design everything. So do you want to dive into the four elements that you use and look at to help you actually create the branding for your product? Where do you start? What do you bring in?
So the first thing I'll do is pretty much I'll just use like Pinterest for example, right? So we want, first of all, if this is optional, like it doesn't have to go into creation mode, but there's always a logo. That's always fun to create a logo for a new product, right? And there, you don't have to go out and spend a fortune on having a logo designed for your new offer or your new product. Literally, there are tools for us available for free. You can go on Canva and just Google, like just type in logos, and there are so many that will pop out. Just play around a little bit, or you can just use a font. Like, really, you can just use a font, like use one of your fonts or use a new font or whatever it might be. But you can play around, and if you've got Canva Pro or Canva Free, there's logos there for you, and you can just like there's hundreds. You can just grab a few and play around, or do like me. And some of my newest offer does not have a logo. I just literally just used a font and use that, put the title and call it a day. That's my logo. But it doesn't have to have a logo, right? And then you've got the fonts, right? So do you want to keep with the same fonts that you use, or do you have a second set of fonts that you really, really love that you'd like to use on this offer? I think that keeping it similar is good because it keeps everything flowy
Mm-hmm.
rather than having something completely different that doesn't even look like you anymore, right? I think that keeping that in mind too when you're trying to come up with a like a new brand kind of like style for your offer and product. I think that you want to make it flow, because if it was completely like, for example, if I started creating an offer that had like bright yellow and pink and blue and those orange kind of colors, like that's completely off. Like that's so not me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to stay within your box of like, yeah, that still looks like me, right? And then coming up with the fonts and then your colors, right? And I think that that's the fun part, but again, without overthinking. And the colors, I think that, we can um, stay within the color scheme of what we currently use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not necessarily color scheme, but like, for example, Sarah, your colors are like, the light pink with the, I believe, is it a gray?
Gray and the blues and a little
Yes,
bit of, yeah.
but they're like a specific shade,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you go with like, you know what, I feel like playing with pink and green right now, but you go with pink and green but in the same kind of shades, like they're kind of like a little bit more muted and soft, and like that is remains in kind of like the the same, it's going to flow nicely. Whereas if you create an offer like a membership or whatever, and you go slapping some bright orange and turquoise colors on there, and that just doesn't look like Sarah,
Yeah.
right? Same with me. It's the same with me, right? Like, so I think that like kind of keeping in your wheelhouse,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that would be definitely key. And again, not overthinking this. And I think like we're going to talk about how like how to go about finding those colors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely more the fun part. So yeah, I think those are the kind of key elements. And then there's stock photos, right? So stock photos, and that's where I have fun with creating a brand identity for, a different offer, a different product. For example, my summit, right? It was so fun choosing new stock photos that don't necessarily match my website, but they kind of like they're still Julie-esque, but having fun with new stock photos and bringing in the colors, right? So it just allows us to play with new elements, especially if we're creative beings
Mm-hmm.
and love doing that stuff. Now, if that's like, if you're listening to this and you're like, no, no, just not me. And that's okay. Like, this is totally something that's optional, right? Like, you don't have to create new brand styles for any of your offers. You can use your same colors throughout everything you do, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
This is black and white, right? Like, it's very like You go and you do you.
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah, and that's great because actually that we just do what works for us, and if we don't feel like doing it, then that's okay. If we want to, then yeah, let's go for it. And I love that you asked, because one of my questions when you were saying just then was actually going to be, well, if we're choosing different colors and different styles, particularly the colors, how to actually still make it look like us. So I'm glad that you answered that by like saying it's like the ones that are a very similar palette kind of thing. So for me, you're right with my colors, and I've changed them recently on my website, but they're still kind of the same. They're still in like the pastel, calming, muted. Whereas if I started putting on some metallics or some bunch of highlight colors and stuff, you would tell instantly that that's not me at all. So let's dig in then, because you mentioned a couple of times there about how to actually go about choosing colors, and then all the stock photos. Because I always look at your stuff and I think your stock photos, whatever it is, they've all got those like elements where they all flow and it all matches. So what are your tips for first going in and finding the right colours, and then once we've got our colours, picking the stock photos to match that, and actually making, and how we get it all to flow together? Because I know that's where one of your genius moments are. How do you do that?
So you can do it either way, right? So you may have had your eye on stock photos that you love that you want to use for something, right? And then you can build your color palette around that, or the opposite. I I like for my brand, I definitely chose the colors first, and now I'm kind of finding pictures that match stock photos that kind of go with that. And I have, I have a library of stock photos myself. It used to be a membership, and it's not anymore. It's only available exclusively in some of my programs. But there are all kinds of stock memberships out there. But the most recent stock photo purchase I made was on Creative Market, because I had a vision, and it's so hard sometimes to find the stock photos that you're looking for, something specific, right? But I went on Creative Market, and there's this gal that creates these website templates, website themes, and I love the pictures that she uses throughout her themes. And I'm like, I want these pictures. So I Creative Market, and it was a bundle of like, I don't know, 1,000 pictures or something like that. Quite a few of them, and they all kind of flow. They all kind of match, and so they go with my colors. So that's how I ended up buying that bundle on Creative Market. I think it was like $75 or something like that. But you can buy smaller bundles on Creative Market, bigger bundles, and sometimes you can even find who they belong to. Like sometimes they have a stock photo membership, and then you can either join for monthly memberships are more rare now, but usually there you can get a quarterly stock photo membership and grab your pictures from there. But hey, I've I've used pictures from Canva as well for, some of my offers and pages, and creating graphics and stuff like that. I'll use Canva images. Or um or if you want to play with the colors first and then, add the stock photos, you can do that too. And this is how I choose my colors. And there's only one way to do it, in my opinion, and it's using Pinterest. And
Hmm.
so all you have, if you want to go with pink something, then, go to Pinterest and type in pink color palettes. And then boom, they'll all come out, right? And then you could also do pink and green color palettes, and then they all come out. So, and this is a visual thing. Whatever you like, save it. I usually do a secret board, because usually our Pinterests are, set up in a way to attract our ideal clients and get people clicking. So this is kind of board. It's kind of the board that doesn't really go with our business usually. So make it a secret board and put the stuff that you like in there. And sometimes you'll find a photo of, like, you've seen those, like ice cream cone or the beach, and then underneath it's like 5 or 6 different colors,
Yeah.
or proper actually color, like actual color palettes, like a color with the logo and a color brand and photos that match and everything. So those, like, and sometimes it's just an image, like you love the colors of that image, throw it in the secret board, like just keep on going until you've had enough. And then you open up your computer and you click on the secret board, and it's amazing because the same theme is happening. Like you'll see, like there's a definite theme, and then you can pick okay, well, this is the one that I love. I love this color, these 5 colors together with this image. And then what I'll do is I'll use the color picker on my Chrome extension color picker. And then I'll go and find the codes for those colors and I'll bring them into Canva or, wherever you put the number, the name, the color, what do you call that? The color
Oh,
code,
the hex code, yeah.
hex code, the hex code for the color, wherever you put your hex codes. I put mine usually in Canva because then I can play around.
Hmm.
Put your hex code somewhere and then you can start playing around with your product. Now what happens sometimes is, you start playing around with your sales page and you put the picture in and then you start implementing those colors and they don't quite work. And it's like, I'm just not feeling it. Go back to Pinterest and choose, like, it might just be that it might, you may have to do in this case is go to Canva color and go into the hex, like the hex square, and just move it around a little bit to get a different shade of that color. Sometimes that's all you need. Get a different shade, a different variation of that color, because that is not quite the right color, and or just choose another palette altogether. That's the way I do it. And just because you choose that one color palette in Pinterest doesn't mean you have to stick with it, because sometimes when you start, and this goes for your website, if you start playing around and the colors they just don't go, like it's just not working, right? Change it, like, until you're like solid on these are my colors. Like I've recently did that, like I'm rebranding and I'm using different shades of pink, and it took me a few tries to go, yeah, this doesn't work, and this, I like this color, definitely this is staying. Like I played around with the hex codes in the different shades of light pink and gray beige that have a tone of pink, that, you know what I mean, and then
Yeah.
putting together and coming up with the final, like, okay, these work well on my website, they work well, and the same for the product, like these are the colors I want to use for this product. And like my latest low ticket offer, there was like a bluish in it because I took it from out of those dark photos that I was using. And so, but they were still like in the same, it wasn't pink, but it was still like it flowed because it wasn't bright blue, or it wasn't like, it was a muted blue that totally went with the pink. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Mm.
so just I would be in my element. I have been in my element recently where I've been looking at it for my website, and it is such a rabbit hole, but it is such a fun one, isn't it? And it is true that when you spend, and it's the sort of thing that we can do sitting in the evenings, sit there with a glass of wine watching TV, and you could just sit, pin it, pin
Yes.
it, pin it, pin it, and you come back. And you're right, when you look at the board again afterwards, you can see distinct patterns and themes that keep cropping up. It's just, it is so much fun. So I think that's such a great tip of if you're just starting out doing it, just go and play on Pinterest and see what comes
Yeah.
up. And they're going,
Mhm. Like truly, honestly, like I don't believe in that whole this color for that mood and this color for that mood, because honestly, if you're gonna use colors for people's moods, it's not going to flow when you're trying to design your sales page or your checkout page, or it's your website. It's just not. I tried it. I was like, I like this color palette, this is what I want to use now, and I started playing with that color palette, and it was these beautiful, like dark like navy and like plum, and this very rich turquoise green color, beautiful color palette. Nothing was flowing because it wasn't me and it wasn't feeling aligned. I truly believe that once you start playing around with colors that are who you are and that light you up and make you feel happy, that's when everything, magic happens on your screen, when you choose colors that you feel into.
awesome. And it's such, it's like when we get our colours done ourselves for our clothes, isn't it? Then once we're starting to wear the colours that are actually us, that's when
Mhm.
we feel more confident and more alive. And I guess it does come across the same in our branding. This is
Yep.
brilliant. So when we're talking about actually having the brand for the product, we've decided our colours, we've decided our fonts and all of that jazz. You mentioned sales pages and checkout pages and everything. So obviously we incorporate all the colours and everything on that. And then coming to like making mock-ups of whatever it is. If, say, for example, if it's a masterclass or a workbook, I guess that's where you would bring the colours in as well. And even down to when you're creating it, is that what you would do as well? Bring it in there too?
Bring it in the Canva graphics. So your graphics for your offer, right? Like so my example using my example of my low ticket offer, I brought that in. I brought those colors and those elements into the graphics that I created for this product. And so it's like it that product has those distinctive colors. And so the Canva graphics that I created, I use those colors and but they still match my brand. So it doesn't look off if I'm like posting something on Instagram, for example.
Hmm.
Um, right. And I'm trying to think now. So, like anything that I created for that product. So, for example, a fillable Google Doc, right? Like I created a banner and I used the colors from that color palette for my Google Doc, my workbook, for my checkout page, the buttons and stuff like that. And the graphics that I used because I my stuff is in my products and offers are in Thrivecart. So you need those little Thrivecart, horse icons or squares, like all of those, they match that product brand.
Hmm.
So, also, I don't know if it makes it easier for someone to find it once they log into Thrivecart, but right. But like you can bring those elements into everything that you create for that offer. So it's really fun.
Brilliant.
Facebook, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when somebody's so like I know we've created lots of digital products in the past, but so if somebody else is coming new to this and thinking, actually, I'm really liking the idea of giving my product a brand in its own right, but then they're new to like creating digital products as well and new to creating workbooks and creating all of the mock-ups and everything. Do you say to get started is to just go and make that list of everything that you want to incorporate in it, like the workbook itself, the sales page, and everything, the mock-ups, even inside Thrivecart or wherever you're hosting it? And just think about all of the different elements and areas that you would want to have that in there so that you can make sure the brand is carried across.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely a good idea. And the thing is, you have to create those things anyway. So that's why, remember I said put those colors in Canva? That's why I think like that's such a good idea to have those. And if you have Canva Pro, you can create unlimited amounts of those brand boards, right?
Hmm.
So you bring in your fonts for that. And if you have Canva Pro, you can create different brand palettes, right? Like I have one for Julie C Butler, but then I have one for this program and I have one for when I used to do photography. It was a different set of shades of pinks. So I have those brands inside of Canva and then you can create a new one and call it the name of your offer and those will be your colors and your fonts for and if you have a logo you can import the logo as well into that brand board inside of Canva and so it's just so easy when you go into creation mode it's all there for you and you can also bring in those stock photos and make a folder inside of Canva, bring the photos in. So when you're designing, it's so easy because everything is there for you to access. So
Brilliant. Oh, I love the idea of having folders on there. It makes it so much easier, doesn't it? Definitely to have all the pictures together. And I love what you shared earlier about creative market. I meant to mention this come back to me of because I think sometimes even if we've got the colours, that when we go into our favourite stock photo memberships, and I'm a member of 3 or 4 of them, and you can still some of them are great because you can filter by colours, can't you, to bring out the right ones. But otherwise, you can spend hours and hours and hours just scrolling through all of the collections, just trying to find one photo that actually fits that color palette. So knowing that you can go into creative market and then actually finding them by color like that that's really, really cool. I love that idea.
yeah, and I've done that before. I start with photos. And I'm like, okay, you start using the photos on your sales page or your checkout page, probably mostly a sales page. But if you start using photos, like for my summit, for example, once I started putting the photos in, and then you see, oh, the colors that just don't go and they just need to be tweaked a little bit, then those become my colors. Like you can start with a set of colors, and then once you start bringing in the photos, if they need to be tweaked a little bit, tweak them, and then that can become your color palette.
Absolutely. I've done that too. I've done it using the color picker from on the Chrome extension of like, actually, I like that shade of blue that's in that photo. So I'll pinch that. And then the other way I've done it as well is the color picker on the actual function that they've got in Canva itself, isn't it? If you upload
Yes.
a photo to it, it comes up with the amazing different suggestions, doesn't it? It's incredible. So yeah, it's definitely lots of ways. Oh my goodness, we could talk about the whole colors and fonts things for ages.
I need a color for this, like what? And then you go and you just scroll down a little bit and where you can see like the circle of the photos. And if you click on see all or see more or something like that, it will come up with like little color palettes from the photos. It's really cool. I think it's five colors, four colors or something
Hmm.
like that. Yeah. So you can choose some of these colors or tweak them a little bit if you need to. But those are real, that's a really neat feature as well.
Yeah, it's super fun. Brilliant. So we chatted about coming up with your ideas for the brand and looking at photos and picking colours and photos and sales. How do you go about picking your fonts? Because your fonts always look like they pick together so well, and I always struggle and I chop and change my fonts all the time. So have you got any tips for anybody out there that has the same struggle with me and just wants to throw their laptop out the window when they look at fonts? How do you go about picking your fonts and then choosing ones that actually kind of convey the message that you want and match your photos? What are your tips for that?
So I keep it simple because I tend to use classic fonts, and they're you can find them everywhere. My fonts that I use, they're in Canva, they're in Thrivecart, they're in Google, they're in ConvertKit. They're, like I really love Playfair Display or anything that looks like it. More recently, my new website is going to use Noto. I don't know if that's how you say it, but Noto Serif.
Hmm.
Um, hey, that's the font that I will be using. It's very a Playfair Display, but skinnier. And then I stick with Railway, Mozzarella, or Poppins.
Hmm.
Like those are my go-tos for body text. And I like a scripty font. So the one that I'm using now is actually, I chose it because the website theme that I bought, she designed it using a Dahlia script font. So I can't remember if I had to buy that font or if I had to, or if it's free. Because sometimes a lot of these fonts are free. You just download it from Google Fonts or fonts.com or whatever. But I've purchased fonts before from Creative Market. Amalfi Coast, I purchased. That's the one I'm using now.
Hmm.
And I used to use the Impressionists. I find that but if you're going to, the thing with fonts is if you're using a scripty font, just you want it to be legible, right? And I find that some people can get away with those curly Mickey Mouse fonts, but I find that they usually make the brand look beginner.
Hmm.
I mean that with love and respect. But sometimes those fonts make a website or they just make your offer or your product look a little bit more beginner.
Hmm.
And want to go for that high level touch and feel. I think that if you stick with the fonts that are classic, you can't go wrong. So, pick a serif like your Playfair Display, Noto serif. Um, there's a handful of them that look very similar. Like if you stick with those as your header kind of title fonts, and then the body, if you stick with the Montserrat or Poppins or Railway has that little bit more of an artsy feel to it,
Yeah.
but you can't go wrong with those classic fonts. But if you're like, I want some font combo ideas, just Google it. Google font combinations. What are good to go together? And there's all kinds of different combinations. Canva even gives you some. Canva, if you go in the font section, it will have them right there, the blocks, and you just click on it and it brings it up. So that's a good way, a for sure way of getting fonts that go together that match. But literally, I keep it simple with my fonts and I don't try to get all fancy because what happens is that sometimes they're not legible.
Hmm.
They become like hard to read, or especially the more so the scripty fonts. So you have to be really careful with the scripty fonts. A scripty script. Um, and I stay away from those curly fonts. Now, you know what I mean with curly
Yeah.
fonts, ones that are kind of like childish.
Yeah.
That I There's a select few people that can get away with those, but I find that they just make your brand look beginner. And
Hmm.
that's how I feel about that.
No, that's
But
cool. I totally
some
get what you mean.
that it's wrong. And like I said, some people can get away with it because it goes with their brand, it goes with who they are. But for the most part, sometimes I'll look at a website and they have that curly-ish font on there, and it just, I don't know. It just it kind of removes that. It's weird. It's like it removes that professionalism from the whole thing. And it's just this is my opinion and my perception. Like it's definitely not. It's just I feel that, if you want a more high-end, like professional looking brand, I think if you stick with the classic fonts, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like all of the classic fonts. I love all of those, and I've done the same. I've Monster Art I use a lot. Poppins I've used. Railway I use. Playfair Display is always a good go-to. I like Bezel. Is it Bellezza? Bezella I use a lot as well. Nunito. Yeah, there's all sorts. So I think it's just a case of playing and seeing like you do with the colours and font and everything else, of just going and
Yeah.
seeing what we
Yeah.
do. Brilliant. This
Mhm.
has been so much fun. I think like the core like message from you really of all of this that you kept saying over was just don't overthink it. Keep it simple. Go and play with the colors, go and play with the fonts, go and play with the photos, make that board on Pinterest, and then just dive in and just bring all of that into everything that you're creating of the sales page or of the checkout page, the actual product itself, mock-ups and everything else. Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's been so much fun. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be so much for people to take away. Is there any like one final like nugget of wisdom or anything else that you would share before we wrap up? And I know you've got a freebie as well that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, yeah. I would say like this is definitely the thing that, you can sit on the couch, and play around with, have fun with. Um, and if you don't have time to dive into this and you want to, just use your current brand colors because the number one thing is sell your product. Sell your Don't go spending hours and hours or a day working on the, color palette or scheme, theme and all that stuff. If it's going to prevent you from selling your thing. So first of all, you want to sell the thing. So if that means use your current brand colors to get it out there and sell it, and then tomorrow you can work on the brand palette, then do that. But yes, and if you're not feeling it, if you start going down this road and it doesn't really feel right and it's just not feeling it, then just use your brand colors. I really, like you said, don't overthink. This is meant to be a fun thing to do. And I think that for us out there that have that creativeness, and sometimes it's like a reward, right? Like this is the stuff you do after you sold the thing.
Yeah, love it. That's exactly. No, we could go back and change it later, can't we? It's a perfect reason to just not have it as an excuse to procrastinate and not actually get the thing out there. So that was definitely like a little message and a tap for me on my shoulder. Brilliant. I love it. Okay, so yeah, I know you've got a freebie. So do you want to share that with everybody? And just if you want to connect, find out more about what you do, how they can work with you, and yeah, where to find you.
Well, the best way to find me is juliecbutler.com, Julie C with the C. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. But my freebie is actually a really awesome freebie. It's helps you create and design your lead magnet. And I just love it because we all need that high converting lead magnet. I created this lead magnet years ago and it still works. And so this is me telling you how to do the same thing. So go ahead and grab it. I think Sarah will have the link for you in the show notes. It's one of those definite workbooks that you want. And it's a workbook. So you can actually, go through and do the work as you go along. So it's actionable as well.
Brilliant. I love that. We will make sure that that is in the show notes as well as all of the other links to find you on Instagram, your website, and all that stuff. And we'll also make sure that we link back to the other episode we did as well about creating your offer and getting it out in the same day. Because if you listen to that one again and this one together, we've got no excuse for going and getting our offers out there and giving them a funky brand to go with it. I love it. Thank you so much, Julie. This has been brilliant. Thank you for being our first repeat guest on the podcast and for doing this brilliant little two-part mini series. It's been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Two-part mini series. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody listening, tuning in, and watching on YouTube. And we will catch you all on the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.